The first tab I have pulled up, I'll show you, but it involves the Kondisco Monastery in Ob, in the Ob North, founded in the 1600s by Alekev Ostrich princess, uh, native to those places. The creation of the monastery, in quotes, Russia has discovered Siberia. Well, it took long enough. Church properties closing down. Something going on at the end of the 1600s. Let's see here. An inventory of the church property compiled in 1923 indicated that, you know, it was doing good. They had a large farm, considered prosperous because it of owning 775 peasants, serfs. So it had a forge, and they owned 775 peasants, 4 mills, malt house, monks extracted, or did they use the 775 peasants to extract iron ore and mica? Did the monks oversee the manufacture of windows using all of these slave slash peasant slash serve slash whatever you want to call them? How about the butter, the hemp seed oil, and the candles? They baked bread themselves. You go, monk. You raise fish. Go, monks. And kept livestock. Well, what did this 775,000? That's 3/4 of 100,000 or of a million. Yikes. So, anyway, difficult times came. Here they are, orphans being trained by nuns. Now, where they're planning for a revolution, home for the disabled, where they could end up. Uh, let's see. Here's a picture of it. Now, here's the thing. They closed it down on February 14th. That'd be Happy Valentine's Day. General meeting at the Kondisco Village Council, said a consultant of the Ugra Archive Service. There was only one issue on the agenda, the closing of the church. Close this church. The church is in opposition of the working masses, 1930, an agent of class enemies. The church must close. I mean, this is when my parents were being born, and then we were all told everything's Humpty Dumpty, leave it to Beaver, and Father knows best. Ask Andy Griffith if you don't believe that. Oh, Andy said we shouldn't be goofing around too much. So 130 people at the meeting, and they all sang the Internationale. Well, that's the Freemason national anthem. Close the church. Just how recent was it? Remember those Russians that they were fleeing, getting their beards shaved, and they ended up living in the mountains there and not found from the late 1930s till the mid 1970s. Wow. So it was never used again anyway. It was listed as a club until 1937, transferred to State Fishery Trust. Okay, so, just more proof on this epic extravaganza leading to the log jam of the Mississippi that's going to blow your mind. And only one more tab but this next tab should actually pre blow your already blown mind. Wow, can you believe this? I don't care about BRICS. Everybody knows about BRICS. I want you to know about the Shanghai Corporation Organization. The, should I say it? Dare I sound like a charismatic? Oh, the non-healer, non-tongue speaker, but practically gargling and you know trying to avoid all of that. This used to be called something else, the Shanghai Corporation Organization. I mean, they just make it sound like the mafia. Eurasian political, economic, international security. Huh? And a defense organization. It's kind of like, well, look, there was NATO. When you put down a defense organization, they show, looks like NATO. There you go. That's NATO. Established in 2001, before 9/11. This just gets better all the time. 60,000 percent of Eurasia, 40% of the world population, and this isn't even BRICS, and they're already, as of 2021, this wasn't disestablished. This is still going along with BRICS. There's no slowing down these planned takeovers. Look, the Shanghai Corporation Organization slash Mafia is the successor of the Shanghai Five, but that sounds too ominous. That was formed, the Shanghai Five, in 1995. Wrong, 1996. So it's the People's Republic of China, Kazakhstan, more recently in the news. What's this? Kyrgyzstan, Central Asia. In all of these, these are those countries that are just building up like crazy. There's the new sacred geometry capitals of the world. And if there's a sacred geometry decoded, I think he goes through all of the capitals of those countries and shows that they're spending the money there. So the Shanghai Five, the Shanghai United Nations, it's going to take over everything. It's very important. It, changed its name in 2001, probably around 9/11. Supports the rats. They even have a rats council. The regional anti-terrorist structure. So that's the Shanghai Corporation Organization, RATS, Regional Anti-Terrorist Structure. They have it all. Look at these guys act like they don't even need the United States. Look at this photo op. Come on, are they throwing gang signs, man? I can't prove that. I don't even know if I'm just saying that because it sounds provocative. I remember this guy, Hamid Karzai. He was the head of Afghanistan, and we were gonna win that war and teach them a lesson they'd never forget. Hey, I recognize Putin. Look at this, a whole list of countries that no American flags. They're trying to do what? How long has this been going on? And they got something going on in 2001. They're all set for the takeover, but they're not all set for the 2038 Unix epoch, are they? This is an extravaganza epic. Be taking notes. That's a throwaway sentence that you can go back and research later, but we're moving on. Time to look at some of this log jamming. An introduction to log jamming. So here we are as
require dredging.
Dredging.
Beyond.
So here's Bin Bin, the archivist, he gets, he's not a God believer. He's one of the his road to monetization and self-sustainability in the Mudflood movement is to read old articles, and he's been, propped up by a lot of other people, interviewed, with, I don't know if he's debated Christianity. I'd love to. He's a gematria, but he's talking here about something that you need to know about. That when I heard it, because, well, it says Mississippi, so I'm going to be studying that because I believe the Mississippi is the Nile. Got all these other wonderful theories that, we'll go over some other time. But listen to this part here, por favor.
Imagination. It's the same kind of overlay that I wanted to cover with the New Orleans. If you haven't seen that episode, go back. We kind of go over that a little bit, and we're going to talk about that more here. Rises 9 feet above the level of the sea. The excavations are often made far below the level of the Gulf of Mexico, and digging for the
What?
but yeah, so really quick, we're going to hop into our Indian. A really important touch there, because you find that the Moors had a incredible correlation with the Huguenots. Again, how these groups of people were completely reclassified, and they, all these people are given 1,000 names, and you kind of.
One thing is that if they were going live, I could ask somebody, where was I. But now I can't. But I wanted to find where he talks about how they find standing forest. They're using people to remove the clay to clean the canals, but then they come upon mud flooded forest where the trees haven't been cut down, not like the log jams that we're going to be looking at. But, so, he's got almost 10,000 subscribers on his newish channel, and he finds some interesting things to read, and no pressures at the, like I've already gone down the road that, you should bow the knee to Jesus Christ here because you're going to do it sooner or later. Everybody is. Like Mississippi River Isis has been running in its bed for more than 100,000 years, is one of the comments there.
To grow, and then a buried forest, and then time for another forest to grow.
Oh, this is it.
Crazy. Lowest bed of the excavation at the gasworks. Okay, so now if for those that have seen a bit of my work, you'll be familiar with my radium series, where I've started to talk about gas, natural gas. I also work oil into this whole narrative, the oil industry, the natural gas industry, and its relation to radium, and why this is important. And these oil and gas companies, coal companies, are finding insane stuff when they first start excavating.
I know that kind of things just feed everybody going like, now I got to study radium. Let's study the Bible and some of these things in the log jam, because, the radium is a mystery for now. Let's move ahead just a hair.
Burnt wood was found at a depth of 16 feet. And at the same depth, the workmen discovered the skeleton of a man. The cranium lay beneath the roots of a cypress belonging to the fourth forest level below the surface, and was in a good state of preservation. The other bones crumbled to pieces on being handled. The type of cranium was, as might have been expected, that of the Aboriginal American race. Now, that's a slippery slope, because as we get farther up the Mississippi, we're going to show that there were probably as many as 5 or 6 different types of brain skulls found in the mounds in America. So that's a, kind of put an asterisk on that term, but very interesting nonetheless, because we're dealing again with a burial beneath a cypress tree, and this was very common. Um, I chose that as my introductory article. Really important because again, it just there is an a ancient root here in the Americas that is buried so far below our feet that it's either been purposely hidden, which obviously seems very likely at this point, um, or it's been buried so far that we have no idea of its existence, and that almost all the major cities from Alaska to where we are here in Mississippi lie on the shoulders of ancient cities and ancient races. Okay, he appears to be a mongrel, the result of a crossing of the white Europeans and the black Moorish races, for he is not the Mongolian of the East. So, very interesting because we have a lot.
How about that? Now I remembered I could pause it, find the spot, and then I'll move on because we're getting to that log jam. Log jam, baby.
That are so ancient and so massive. And the bottoms of these canals are lined with some of the most huge, gigantic ancient trees. What came first? How could a canal come second to a huge, giant, petrified ancient tree? And the size of ships that some of these canals were designed for is mind boggling. It's the same with the steamship era. Even some of these companies that were building
Here it
steamships in the
comes.
Mississippi were using, as they stated, um, the ancient um, thoroughfare, the ancient canal works. That will require dredging um, beyond imagination. It's the same kind of overlay that I wanted to cover with the New Orleans. If you haven't seen that episode, go back. We kind of go over that a little bit, and we're going to talk about that more here. Rises 9 feet above the level of the sea. The excavations are often made far below the level of the Gulf of Mexico. And digging for the foundations of gas works,
Here it is.
the Irish spadesmen, finding they had cut through timber instead of soil, gave up the work and were replaced by a corps of Kentucky axemen.
So we have Irish people digging out the clay in the canals, and then all of a sudden you need Kentucky axemen to clear out the mud flooded forests.
So think about this, you guys. They're building levees and excavations, right? Strengthening them, digging down in the ground, and they find a standing forest. Okay. So the spadesmen, men with shovels, give up and they bring in a corps of Kentucky axemen. So they literally uncover a standing forest who hewed their way down through 4 successive growths of timber. The lowest, so old that it cut like cheese.
Cut like cheese. You guys don't make any of those jokes, So having been around a while, knowing about, oh, good, they're talking about canals and forests, and canals are rivers. The Atchafalaya, the Red River, the Mississippi being the ones I've probably studied the most, excluding where I live in Colorado, the Colorado River, and now I live by the Rio Grande, and to study that, I'm just a short ways from their headwaters. Let's keep moving on here. What was the next tab after we're established into cleaning out the river/canal for the giant steam ships? What's this? Is this something else that's not associated to it? Oh, look, look, look. Log jams, not logarithms. $400,000 miniature caches of wood, millions of tons. So maybe this one is to prove that the great raft, the giant raft, wasn't the biggest one, but that actually these log jams should be able, to be, it says newly mapped in the Arctic, stores more than 3.4 million tons of carbon. Is that good or bad? I mean, well, and this is from April 11th, 2023. Throughout the Arctic, fallen trees make their way from forest to the ocean by way of rivers. Those logs can stack up as they tend to do. So that's established. We got log jams. It's just going to happen. Even if the log jams are what you guys call petrified trees, and sometimes they are, and I'll show you the Great Raft, and sometimes they're Nephilim that people think are petrified trees. The Great Raft was an enormous log jam or a series of rafts, floating islands that clog the Red and Atchafalaya rivers. So we're not talking about any old raft or series of rafts. The Great Raft was an enormous log jam or series of raft that clogged. Now, I want you to pay attention to that. And I don't know if you can get a screenshot or you've seen this before. We've all got reset. The person we watched before we clicked on here, he's got 5 resets. I see why it happened, but what we know is, they're going back to the 12th century. That's where they're, one to hypothesize that it possibly began forming. That was what we would call, I guess, the 1100s. Went 165 miles, became part of the legendary mythology of the Caddo tribe, the nation from Oklahoma. They credited it with protecting them from competing tribes and, acting, as a flood intermittently and kept the land fertile for agriculture. So in 1830, steamboat builder and river captain Henry Miller Shreve, as in Shreveport, Louisiana, you know, was hired by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to remove the gate raft. I think, wouldn't isn't it more than suspicious or likely that they have recently found the Great Raft and maybe they don't know what they're doing because they had to repair the Mississippi after Shreveport caused a flood using the Great Raft, which is one of many. I looked up and found that there were many, and they used in the 1833 4 snag boats, a force of 159 men, not like those 775 uh, peasants. Wouldn't that have been nice to have access to those more slaves? I guess I don't know. So they worked their way down it. The raft blocked a distance of 8 miles directly below to 17 miles directly above Shreveport. So the blocked city, probably the recovered city of Shreveport, which would be no different than looking up any other city and finding out like, oh my goodness, look, it's got some mudflood things right around modern stuff. Well, when do we stop acting surprised about those type of things? Because they're everywhere, just semi hidden in plain sight. A white swan. They must not look at that. Way up here. And New Orleans is way down here. They had to redirect that river because it seems that a lot of people think that the natural flow when Shreveport took it dangerously close to what's going to happen probably in the near future if we continue to be attacked by possible foreign countries with, what those conspiracy people call do weapons or harp weapons. I'm just conjecturing here. I'm just just shooting off. Don't shut me down. We're just talking mud flood proofs for truth of Jesus Christ, wanting every person to bow the knee now rather than forced to bow the knee later. That's my goal. Get all those rivers that feed the Mississippi. And if it would have broke through over here, it would have been a disaster for the Rosicrucian Jesuit founded New Orleans and their voodoo magic with their voodoo tarot cards and voodoo. There's probably used to be blue suede shoes. So here it is. It's on the river. We're still looking at Shreveport. There's signs of the old world everywhere. And of course, this city was mud flooded in 7 miles to the south, 17 miles to the north on the Mississippi. It basically Shreveport was logged in until Captain Henry Miller Shreve, a steamboat biller, billing you for that steamboat. Billing you. He was a builder. Oh, so it was 8 miles below and 17 miles to the north. So then there was a second great raft that they had to do by, and that would be flood. And that's what people were, as we heard in the YouTube video, that's what people were encompassing from the Arctic all over this flat earth. So Cato Lake, it says also, look at that. Okay. Cato Lake got caused by probably a log jam. Oh, the 1811, 1812 New Madrid earthquakes. What's our closest one around 1812? We have between 1806 and 1848 as the third of the seven resets. There you go. That's a big deal. The New Madrid earthquakes that could have caused mud flood things. We don't know what year that was. Look at that. Cato Lake is right on Texas. My goodness. Log jam, Great Raft, Red River. They're all connected to Cato Lake. Likely caused flooding of the existing low-lying basin. All right. Now they got to figure in all those endorheic basins. So we have interesting things, and this is something that, believe me, I hope you'll hear more about it. People should go like, well, even though this was probably a more, condensed epic version of mud flood truths and proofs, they'll encourage, they'll improve it and they'll take some of these topics and then you'll get to see the people learn about it. Mud floods, Cato Lake. Okay. All right. Probably body parts here with that type of sedimentary. I'm not sure, but sometimes that's what it looks like. Cato Lake. Let's see if they had rafts. Great raft, junk raft. The papaya built or balsa wood looks like it says raft. That was a very interesting when they were doing that. Polynesian, that was 1947. I didn't read about it till the 70s, but Thor Heyerdahl, very interesting. Moving on, what was the next tab? So something here is like about the Red River through though a creation of the Red River, which at the time was known as the Great Swamp. So here, all right, so let's go back. So when did they discover actually that there was this great raft, not giant raft, great raft? Is we have a record here. Uh, the Freeman Curtis expedition is on. This is the 1806, so it's like contemporarily with the Lewis and Clark expeditions, which get mentioned. Something I didn't know, because the classic Jefferson presentation kind of, your great father in Washington. Well, maybe we'll get to it. Maybe we won't, but we will find out that on the record, June the 2nd of 1806, this party, Freeman Curtis, left Natchitoches fully outfitted, ready to explore the headwaters of the Red River. It immediately confronted an enormous and what seemed to be an almost insurmountable problem in the form of an unknown logjam that now is called the Great Raft. This Great Raft was perhaps as much as, from Armageddon, starting at the 1,000-year reign until the Satan was loosed in 1711, and people started spreading out, and they found the Great Raft, reported it on the 2nd of June, 1806, that was causing not Lewis and Clark, but Freeman Curtis exposition. And in order to get around it, Curtis and Freeman, referred to as the expedition, which now consisted of 7 boats, had to detour. Now that's when they got to the part of saying, speculating that the creation of the Red River, that was known as the Great Swamp, it is considered by ecologists today to have been a swampland that would have been easily the equal of today's Okefenokee swamp in Georgia. Took the expedition almost 2.5 weeks of incessant toil, fatigue, and uncertainty to work their way through the great swamp. And then once again, it happened. So they knew about it. And this was, getting around it was what, real nightmare. This was the point of, they were taught what is considered here the classic Jeffersonian representation to the Catos and the Alabama Cochatas about how these Indians, who had formerly been Spanish Indians, now had a new great father in Washington. Same thing Lewis and Clark was doing. The Catos reported to the American explorers, the expedition, that guess what? There's a Spanish army doing the same thing 20 miles. And the chief, the Caddo chief, described it. He said, these are bad men who, the Caddos were already flying an American flag in the village. So Freeman and Curtis at this point must have been wondering whether or not they were going to live through the next month or whatever is going to be happening. So they did. Drama ensued. Log jams. It's time to realize we can do it. Mud flood proofing, sticking with the truthing about log jams, not petrified trees. So here was this other one on the St. Croix River. Where's that? Up in Minnesota. Oh, I wanted to show some pictures of that other one. But here's a log jam in 1886. Why did they need all these trees? Well, you have to make charcoal and different things to burn hot if you want those fancier steels to build high rise buildings out of steel and glass to kind of prove that you're improving, evolving, and you're the great race. It was this whole thing here has just been a who's the best ethne. Deceiving the nations into fighting each other is should be what Revelation 20 verses 1 through 3 implies that Satan was cast into the pit for the 1,000 years during the millennial reign so that he could no longer deceive the nations. And that would go a long way towards saying deceiving them to death as they fight to war while we have, Lord willing, have or will successfully beat our swords into plowshares. Next picture. That's a perfect place for a log jam. There's that angle rock. It kind of looks like Wisconsin. So just wanted to show you that log jams back then, when there was a thirst to rape the land before, but when they needed steam and petroleum to make that big steel, uh, I mean, otherwise they would have never had to invent words like the jamidist jam, jamidist jam. And he's not talking about strawberry preserves. He's talking about a log jam he encountered, had hundreds of men working for 6 weeks to clear it, eventually using steamboats and, of course, dynamite. Wisconsin Territory, established in 1836. First, they had to unclog it by blocking the logging activities and cleaning them up, probably with dynamite. And you ever heard that one young man back when he was going dynamite? They were bringing black people on TV as well. They should have, because I mean, what type of a reset cover up is this? I mean, generation calls to generation. A good time to realize, I was born when there were 48 states. These things happen fast. These, computers and NASA and things. That's the year I was born, is when DARPA and NASA, got finalized by the Nazis from Operation Paperclip and said, we'll take it from here. Logging, timber marks, 40 feet under the ground, all kinds of rivers used for it, tying it into industrial madness and steel, letting you know that I think that in the future you'll see other people going like, I got to look at this log jam thing, man, and do it better than Flat Earth Nation that's now Mudflood was Armageddon, because both are true. Mudflood was Armageddon. What was my next one? Never's Dam. A PDF? Really? Loosing logs at about 11 o'clock one night. So this should have all been there. Early 1900s. Massive logs with cant hooks and peavies, which I had one time. I found one in Colorado doing logging. So I didn't, I read this and thought it'd be good, but I got to pause. It had some pictures here. Here's the Nevers Dam. They say this was built exclusively for loggers in 1915 to help. They were getting too many log jams here. So they said, hey, man, how about we build a Nevers Dam, and we just roll those logs down there without getting clogged. Maybe this will, you know, pop in later, but I felt like I was on a roll, and we got a lot of other stuff to cover, and you're good with log jam. So let's say what another log jam once existed. This is my email if anybody wants to write me. 100-mile log jam once existed on the Red River. I guess that's more proof. Here's some a link. Wonder if I clicked that already. Arc tangent. So he's trying to probably act like he knows some trigonometry and all right. So no, no. Log jam mapped. Here's one. Is this that's one that's storing? So these were all giant fallen trees growing up there where nothing grows anymore. And supposedly they got to act like, who knows how many millions and billions of years it's been trapped up there. This world's largest log jam. I'm still on log jams, and you're loving it because man, you would have never known that there was a word like the jammiest, but they're on it. 20 American football fields, over 7,000 tons of carbon. No idea how much wood that means, but it's frozen, I guess. Isn't it? These logs can stack up as the river twists and turns. So did through a series of melting and thawing, it's moving around, much as that ship, the Charlotte, did in the movie National Treasure with Nicolas Cage on a trapped in ice flow, like gravity conveniently providing every excuse. Watch me close that tab. So I had this pulled up because of this picture, and I just thought, how cool is that? Mountain pictures. Art thou better than populous snow that was built by the riverside? Its foundations go down to the sea. Built on a solid foundation of some solid titans. Looks like there's been many times the high places have been torn down and repaired. Some unhewn stone, mostly, even at the top. The ex alpine distinctive pattern. It's in Turkey. Wow. You look at that. How about that? Kind of cool. Look at this line up here, this Titan part of how it's just, that could be figured out. Now, I don't know if this one was melted like wax or not. I'd have to, see more and more pictures, but these are definitely body parts and they built here for a reason. They wanted that vibration or the essence or the protection of what is there because you can track any rock, what's in it. If you can't figure it out by looking at it, look at its molecular weight and know if it has any of the noble metals in it, by its proportion of displacement to actual weight. How many times do you have to watch Gold Rush to remember that, yeah, the gold weighs what, 20 to 24 times more than, you know, come on. If that rock, and this rock seems heavy. Well, there can only be a few reasons why, if it's true. So, cool picture. That's why I got this. 1903, monasteries. Huh, look at that. So this could almost be one of those things where they fled to the caves and they said, fall on us, if anything happens, you saw the exterior, so it goes inside, much as a Mesa Verde finished off. Epic Mudflood truths and proofs tonight because I've decided not to stress over my internet connection and just, keep it flowing. That is amazing. I'm so glad that I'm doing this. Mucho de gusto. That means I like it very much. That looks dangerous. I've done it, but how much room is there really between this and that? Well, and look, there's a hole you can see right through it. This whole world is waxing old as a garment. It looks like they're going to reface it. They've got some marble slabs up here. Is that lumber or slabs? Well, we don't know if that's marble or slabs, but I know this is a Titan's body part, and I also know he's got the whole world in his hands. He's got the whole wide world in his hands. Yeah, they're going to clean it up a little bit. Body part, body part. Oops, those about go to the mountains and fall on me. And take some and turn it into a tourist trap and leave the others for those, encompassed about Camp of the Saints cities that are going to be around the world, one in Christ. That's right. Don't draw a line in the sand and fight to the death, but run away and live to live another day so that we could continue to protect, the young, the infirm. I was just looking over here. Some of this looks so much like I might be able to get a handle on something, but it's too fractally big. So, what? You don't even want to look at this one anymore? What if there's other ones like it? These old monasteries that are in caves. Well, I have this one pulled up. Makissos. Well, it got looks like it got hit by the glittering sword and never recovered from the Mudflood Armageddon event. Moving on, we'll look at that, not the Hagia Sophia that is in what used to be called Constantinople, Istanbul, now Constantinople. No, but it's in around that Cappadocia, so it did get punched pretty good. So it looks like I pulled them both up. That Orthodox Church is mentioned again. And simply because they're not Roman Catholic doesn't mean they're automatically the good guys. So again, Hagia Sophia really just means, a house of wisdom, holy wisdom. This is a Greek church converted to a mosque in 1584. I doubt it. That quickly after the alleged birth of Muhammad, or 1,000 years after. Come on, still doing the crusades in their mind. But full disclosure, not sure, except that it was, 1,000 years from the point of the eunuch's epoch, which I'm just noticing now. I don't know. I was just looking them up from, I was looking for caves under churches once again. Was these capitals? No. Pictures of the Hagia Sophia. Not. the big one in Istanbul, Turkey. But the telltale signs are everywhere. What is it? Look at that. What's going on with that shadow? Can't really tell. Too much speculation. Some sort of a map, possibly, but can't tell. Maybe somebody else will be able to. Let's move on. Oh, Romans 12. One body, we have many members, not always the same function. I'll pull that down. That's not, we're learning mud flood proofs and truths and getting on with that Bible. Urge stall. I couldn't have put it off anymore. In a video about log jams and now urge stalls, you're going to be able to say, truly, epic, epic truths were learned here tonight. Because you've thought you've heard about every type of tunnel. I'll just show you the pictures of what I'm trying to say is dressed up body parts of the Titans so that you can see how you're going to have to get fractaled up on what's natural, what's carved out, what's explainable, what is an erdstall, Erdstall, tunnels that I believe are titans that eventually, with the right amount of to make sure this is the correct layout and not some lie, if we could get some that infrared technology, we'd be able to trace it out as the body part of a Titan and just see how they've retro used it by cleaning out what would have been left, Probably the fluids in the tunnels get washed away if they're not solid enough to be turned into gemstone. Erdsel, that's bad Zell Ertzel. So here would be, what I'm saying is that what they show cleaned out is body parts. And they just figure, well, why dig this part? Because you can, because you may. And then you can use it for whatever you want to use it for and say whatever you want to say about it. Erdstalls. There's some long ones, man. Not to be confused with a fogu, hypogeum, and certainly not rapid transit. So hopefully we'll hear more about Erdsal's body parts. Underground gardens? We studied one underground garden recently. Was it from Fresno? An immigrant from Sicily growing trees underground? Yeah, that's the one. We studied this man, and he was selling these oranges, and right in the middle of town, he just grew them underground. There's underground orchards. Here's that fogu, not the delicacy fugu. Fugu, underground dry stone structure. Possibly body part. Now, these balls, carved stone balls, could very well be anything from a blood cell or something in a body part. They're found inside other, what I'm calling probably veins and arteries, and how, we got the idea, hey, look, it's a pretty straight wall. Let's just remove it, set it up somewhere else, put these rocks exactly like it, and we'll have a wall, backfill it, and pitch and mortar, and Faux goo idea. That's a faux goo idea. So, but these crystal balls, we're going to have to look at those. So, but I want other people who, you know, look around and say, what should I be studying, to go like, I need to know more about Forgoo. Right. So we got Castle Bloody, Kivas. That's where the plebeians pray, and the Kivas are at Mesa Verde, and they claim that Anastasi had some. So was that Pezio pictographs? Petrosomalt supposed image of parts of a human or animal body. All right. So these carved stone balls, this does look like a white blood cell, something like that. Now, why they would do that? If it was easy to do, if it was a body part of something stopped in motion by the glittering sword, because remember, we don't even know what a dodecahedron is. And they find them all over there are saying it was a game by the Romans. You don't know that. But some stones, like if they are carved like this, it's because it was easy for it to scratch off some of the other things that were hanging on that we would consider the dust we're made of. And there's so many of them that when you do this art, it's like, wow, these lines are practically drawing themselves. But this spinning into infinity, infinite Mobius strips, it's what I've described on my many peyote mushroom trips of like, you know, it comes out the middle. The swastikas and things don't spin like a fan. It keeps coming out the middle. Another example. Knobs, counted, classified, stored, numbered, cataloged, speculated upon. What is this? Underground cities, they're everywhere. Look, this is an underground city. They're everywhere in the world. Oh my goodness, look at even Darren Kuyu. You've all heard of that. And it's just like, hey, look, we've got the room. Well, they found the room. I mean, literally, they found it. Figuratively, they found it. There it is. We've got room to sell more things to people who don't need it. I want to look at this one. This is an underground studio in Tokyo. That's a Xiaodong. It's a Taipei Mall, another underground city. Taiwan, don't go there. China's still mad about that. Underground cities, they're everywhere, just like the Fugus. Learning a lot of different things. Jacob built a well, Hezekiah dug cisterns and wells. It's time for us to start considering that in the Bible, they were doing these complicated things that we find, not cavemen. There's all kinds of wells. The ones they describe. Oh my goodness. Hey, you, what are you cleaning out that well? You get good pay, I hope. Look at that guy. Oh, yep, I've used many of those. Look, so, maybe they use them because, it's clean and convenient, So personal water is going to be very important. The symbol of rock core sampling. There you go. Got a alpha, omega, and stop and go. Really? Really? Did you see those signs of some of that they use here? We're done with that. Classification of wells. You just got to go get those well water. Camels drawing water from a well. Pulley systems These, look at that. That's a water well in the middle of nowhere. People, you can live, but it takes work. Leather bucket well. Now here's in Punjab. This looks like a continuous feed with buckets, but that's quite a well system with megalithic. Maybe it got mud flooded, cleaned out, and then refinished up with a new height level to with the bricks. Something was certainly going on here as they transitioned from megalithic stones, and maybe this is where the body part of however the Titan was situated was just running down into where there was always going to be a flow of water, and the workers said we need a little higher. Let's go up higher. Or maybe there are some Nephilim that have body parts that look like brick and muscles. That's very possibly the next thing that somebody's going to, besides me, is going to speculate about. And somebody's going to go like, yeah, bricks are in the body of the Titans. And that's why we use them so that we can say these aren't Titans. We made those bricks. Something like that, maybe. Wells are everywhere. Wells were invented yesterday. No, even Wikipedia is not that bad. I don't have time to keep going about wells. I'm closing it and going to look at this new topic of a former news anchor, the mindfulness movement. Now, I've heard about them using this in the VA, the Veterans Administration, and these meditation things that are patented have one thing in common. They make money for a group of people who are forced upon it, saying, we know you have post-traumatic stress disorder and are willing to try anything. Here, chew this cracker for 20 minutes and describe its different textures as it goes from crisp to moist to you've ingested it. Didn't time fly by as you emptied your mind? I'm saying don't do meditation unless you're meditating upon the scripture. But led to that by transcendental meditation and understanding its connections between the Beatles meeting up with Maharishi Meshai Yogi and our indoctrination with Beatlemania. Well, after further thinking about it, I'm going to go into just a short Bible reading for those who only care about the proof or the truth of the mud flood Armageddon without the Bible. Now's your time to check out, but don't. So here we go. Let's look at this tab. The afar dry earth dust. And it's the same time, because this is another word for, you know, well, you'll see the dust of the ground that man was made out of. God made man of the dust of the ground. This dust, eaten by Satan, licked by Satan, KJV. Dust you shall return. Dust you are. Dust, dust, dust. He struck the dust of the earth. The beast and all the dust of the earth. It's let's see how I got here. And they made them like dust kipar. So out of those 110 uses I was looking at, made them like the dust of threshing. They became like dust and ashes. I've become like dust and ashes, Job. Then I did beat them small as the dust. So this is that silver as the dust and fine gold, the riches. So how did I get, what Bible verse am I looking at here? The stubble of the world, the nations. Isaiah 41, verse 2. Who stirred up one from the east, whom victory meets at every step, who gives up nations before him so that he tramples kings underfoot. He makes them like dust with his sword, like driven stubble with his bow. An allusion to the glittering sword and how they would have been preparing for it during Armageddon. Yes, I do think so. So we'll start with Isaiah 41, that chapter in Isaiah. Fear not, you worm Jacob, you men of Israel. I am the one who helps you, declares the Lord. Your Redeemer is the Holy One of Israel. Behold, I make of you a threshing sled, new, sharp, and having teeth. You shall thresh the mountains and crush them. Cause log jams, maybe? I don't know. No, maybe, no. And you shall make the hills like chaff. You shall winnow them, and the wind shall carry them away. Tempests shall scatter them, and you shall rejoice in the Lord, and the Holy One of Israel you shall glory. When the poor and needy seek water, and there is none, and their tongue is parched with thirst, I, the Lord, will answer them. I, the God of Israel, will not forsake them. I will open river on the bare heights and fountains in the midst of the valleys. I will make the wilderness a pool of water and the dry land a spring of water. I will put in the wilderness the cedar, the acacia, the myrtle, and the olive. I will set in the desert the cypress, the plane and the pine together, that they may see and know, may consider and understand together that the hand of the Lord has done this. The Holy One of Israel has created it. A diatribe against idols and how, if you make it by hand, how, come on. Ticking up in verse 25, I stirred up one from the north, and he has come from the rising of the sun, and he shall call upon my name, and he shall trample on rulers as on mortar, as the potter treads on clay, who declared it from the beginning that we might know, and beforehand that we might say, He is right. There was none who declared it, none who proclaimed, none who heard your words. I was the first to say to Zion, Behold, here they are, and I give to Jerusalem a herald of good news. But when I look, there is no one. Among these, there is no counselor who, when I ask, gives an answer. Behold, they are all a delusion. Their works are nothing. Their metal images are empty winds. Was there something I wanted to read in Isaiah 40? Thought I did. Comfort, comfort my people is how verse 1 starts in Isaiah 40. It continues, it says, Comfort my people, says your God. Speak tenderly to Jerusalem and cry to her that her warfare is ended, that her iniquity is pardoned, that she has received from the Lord's hand double for all her sin. A voice cries in the wilderness, Prepare the way for the Lord, make straight in the desert a highway for our God. Every valley shall be lifted up, and every mountain shall be made low. The uneven ground shall become level. The great plains, I'm thinking, popped into my mind. The glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together, because we're on a flat earth, for the mouth of the Lord has spoken it. A voice says, Cry, and I said, What shall I cry? All flesh is grass, and all its beauty is like the flower of the field. Kind of reminds you of that Solomon in his glory, matching a lily. The grass withers, the flower fades, but the breath of the Lord blows on it. It fades when the breath of the Lord blows on it. Surely the people are grass, the grass withers, the flower fades, but the word of our God will stand forever. All right. It, they were going to have a time to go up to a high mountain, herald of good news, lift up your voice in strength to Zion, O Jerusalem, herald of good news, lift it up, fear not, say to the cities of Judah, behold your God. Behold, the Lord God comes with might, and his arm rules for him. Behold, his reward is with him. He is a God who is a rewarder of those who diligently seek him. He loves that sort of thing. That's why he keeps his reward with him, I guess, and his recompense is before him. He will tend his flock like a shepherd. Nothing new there. He will gather the lambs in his arms. He will carry them in his bosom and gently lead those that are young. And we should try to do the same, giving them good, clean water, not poison water. So, the hollow of his hand, he marked off the heavens with a span, enclosed the dust of the earth in a measure, weighed the mountains in a scale, so he can do that. Hills in a balance. This is our God. That's why he can rhetorically ask, who has measured the spirit of the Lord? Or what man shows him his counsel? Whom did El Elyon, the one great spirit God, whom did he consult? And who made him understand? Nobody. Who taught him the path of justice and taught him knowledge and showed him the way of understanding? Our God is love. And love is the opposite of these apathetic other Elohim who had to be chastised for neglecting the weak and the needy, showing favor to the wicked. Psalm 82, verses 1 through 3. Behold, the nations are like a drop from the bucket and are accounted as the dust on the scales. That's not much, but it's something. Behold, he takes up the coastland like more of that fine dust. All right. Anyway, all the nations are as nothing before him. They are accounted by him as less than nothing and emptiness. So fine dust on a scale or less than nothing or emptiness. But in reality, you're a worm unless, we're identified and saved by Jesus Christ because of his massive love and obedience to the Father and death on the cross, and then the whole raising from the cross and changing our heart. So can't get, hey, then it gets down on the idol makers. You pick it up in verse 25. To whom then will you compare El Elyon, great spirit God, that I should be like him, says the Holy One. Lift up your eyes on high and see who created these, who brings out their host by number, calling them all by name, by the greatness of his might, and because he is strong in power, not one is missing. That could be like, setting them up, the host by their number. Well, I guess, the one who was the highest and lifted up thought he should have been higher lifted up. More jammedness, man. This gets, this is how you build slow to a crescendo. Why do you say, O Jacob, and speak, O Israel, my way is hidden from the Lord, and my right is disregarded by my God? Have you not known? Have you not heard? The Lord is the everlasting God, the creator of the ends of the earth. I'm trying to do like a flat earth dome, over dramatic, melodramatic, uh, not to be emulated by a serious video maker. The Lord is the everlasting God, the creator of the ends of the earth. He does not faint or grow weary. His understanding is unsearchable. He gives power to the faint. That's not something the bad ones do. And to him who has no might, he increases strength. Even youth shall faint and be weary, and young men shall fall exhausted. But they who wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. And isn't this one you've all memorized? Come on with me. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. Teach me, Lord. Teach me, Lord, to wait. Now, the end of 42, because behold, my servant, my chosen, in whom my soul delights, I have put my spirit upon him. He brings forth justice to the ethne. I believe that's ethne. Nope. Goyim, Gentiles. Well, that's us. And it's a Gentile world. The gospel was preached to the Gentiles, to Abraham, who was a Gentile. Do you ever wonder why did he pick his father Terah? I heard somebody ask that today. Instead, he goes like, "No, Abraham's my friend. He choose who he wants to choose. He's the potter. We're the clay." Moving on, the bruised reed will not break. Uh, God says, "Who created the heavens and stretched them out? Who spread out the earth and what comes from it? Who gives breath to the people in it and spirit to those who walk in it? I am the Lord. I have called you in righteousness." The old covenant for the people, a light for the Gentiles, open the eyes that are blind, prisoners out of the dungeon, prisoners that were sitting in darkness. He is the Lord. That's his name. His glory will share with no other. Down on these idols, singing new songs to those who go down to the sea and all that fills it, coastlands and their inhabitants. That's praise from the end of the earth. Because if you go too far, you won't be able to go any further. So, setting up mighty men, declares his praise in the coastland. The Lord goes out like a mighty man, stirs up zeal. It says here, "For a long time I have held my peace. I have kept still and restrained myself. Now I will cry out like a woman in labor. I will gasp and pant. I will lay waste mountains and hills and dry up all their vegetation. I will turn their rivers into islands and dry up their pools. And I will lead the blind in a way that they do not know, in paths that they have not known. I will guide them. I will turn the darkness before them into light, the rough places into level ground. These are the things I do. I do not forsake them. They are turned back and utterly put to shame, who trust in carved idols, who say to metal images, 'You are our God.'" So, Israel's failure to hear and see. Whew. "Hear, you deaf, and look, you blind, that you may see. Who is blind but my servant, or deaf as my messenger whom I send? Who is blind as my dedicated one, or blind as the servant of the Lord? He sees many things, but does not observe them. His ears are open, but he does not hear. The Lord was pleased for his righteous sake to magnify his law and make it glorious. But this is a people plundered and looted. They are all of them trapped in holes and hidden in prisons. They have become plunder with none to rescue, spoil with none to say, restore. Who among you will give ear to this, will attend and listen, for the time has come? Who gave Jacob up to the looter and Israel to the plunderers? Was it not the Lord against whom we have sinned, in whose way they would not walk, in whose law they would not obey? After so many doubling down and so many chances, we're still talking about, you know, in whose ways they would not walk, in whose laws they would not obey. To the very end, give me Barabbas. Whoops. There you got to hear my, just like Rocky. Remember in the Rocky movie? Was it Rocky 2? And that guy bumps into him while he was removing the spit bucket. Rocky said, oops. And that guy said, oh, you sound real tough for somebody who had a chance at the title. Don't mess with him. Well, you got to hear me say oops and mean it. As Inspector Clouseau once said, do not mess with me. Do not tangle with me. So he poured on him the heat of his anger and the might of his battle. It set him on fire all around, but he did not understand. Poor Isaiah. It burned him up, but he did not take it to heart. Okay. All right. So, anyway, here's this. We looked at a little bit at 43, did we? Thus says the Lord, he who created you, Jacob, he who formed you. Now, we have to do this slow because this builds up to the big where I'm going to leave you going like, oh, not with more of this anointed who? Stick around. You formed Israel, fear not. Holy One of Israel, I give Egypt as your ransom. Okay, so that, God showing mercy. North, give up my, we looked at this, North, give up my south, give up, and to the south, do not withhold. Bring out the people who are blind yet have eyes, the deaf yet have ears. They're God's witnesses. Thus says the Lord, your Redeemer, the Holy One of Israel, is how verse 14 starts. Then it continues, for your sake I send you to Babylon. It's the only way they were going to learn their lesson. Instead, many of them ran back to Egypt. They always wanted to go back anyway. And bring them all down as fugitives, even to the Chaldeans and the ships in which they rejoice. I am the Lord, your Holy One, the Creator of Israel, your King. He's going to say, like, look, I'm sending you back to Babylon. You got to take your medicine, you covenant breaking scoundrels. And this is the Lord who's talking. He makes a way in the sea, a path in the mighty waters, who brings forth chariot and horse, army and warrior, asking us, remember not the former things, nor consider the things of old. For them, then, because he told them, then I'm doing a new thing. Now it springs forth. Do you not perceive it? I will make a way in the wilderness. These things happened with John the Baptist. I will make a way in the wilderness and rivers in the desert. The wild beasts will honor me, the jackals and the ostriches, for I give water in the wilderness and rivers in the desert to give drink to my chosen people. That all happened then. Now, he continues again. We'll go to verse 25. I am he who blots out your transgressions for my own sake, and I will not remember your sins. Put me in remembrance. Let us argue together. In King James, let us reason together. Set forth your case that you may be proved right. Your first father sinned, and your mediators transgressed against me. Therefore, I will profane the princes of the sanctuary and deliver Jacob to utter destruction and Israel to reviling. Now, who is going to be their anointed savior? Then, at that point in time, you know who it is. Oh, I thought this was the one that just said, "Blessed be Cyrus." Was that 46? Who is his anointed? So I wanted to, or I thought it was, this is the one. Thus says the Lord to his anointed, to Cyrus, whose right hand I have grasped. This started the time of the Gentiles. If anybody wants to tell me, it started with Daniel or with Esther, you might have a better chance of arguing, of saying, no, it has to wait till 2,000 years after Jesus was proven a false prophet. And I say that facetiously because he is not, but that's what all dispensationalists, postmillennialists, uh, preterists believe. Everyone except what I feel that the Lord has brought to the table with premillennialism. The golden age has passed. Armageddon's over. We're waiting on Gog Magog. His anointed one, to Cyrus, whose right hand I have grasped. And then it just goes on doing all these great things, with, you know, the correction of Israel that is going to preserve it until David's kingdom is at the time and place brought in to its, the from the beginning, everything, the last person smelling of sulfur. They all want to get in there. So want, proving to new people who might have stuck around, who want to know, what do you mean by this word anointing? Well, I mean by the very word anointing. 3 out of the 39 uses, the other 2 refer to King David in 2 Samuel 22:51. Psalm 18:50, same, refers to David. But in Isaiah 45, verse 1, that's that same word. This word, Strong's Hebrew 4899, used 39 times, is by definition anointed. And is that word, the Messiah anointed type. That's where this word comes from. You don't want to argue about this one because I'm not, this is what everybody knows. This isn't, you're not, oh, I'll Paco with a dummy. I'll go get him on. That doesn't say Messiah. Okay. Twice it's translated Messiah. So these are all you anoint. You can anoint a bull, but you can also anoint David. You can anoint, priests. Lord's anointed. You know what anointed means. Weadams now. Who are they? Well, Weadam are us. The first time it was used, and this, as you should know, Strong's Hebrew 120 means male, Adam. It means Adam. That's what, 552 occurrences, 10 of them are Weadams. One of them talks about after Genesis 1, there was no man to cultivate or love the ground. But that's a Weadam. 10 different times. It's a male. You can use these men in Leviticus. And Job is talking about, Job 34, a man, a man in the sight of God and man. Proverbs 3:4. You can grow in the sight of God and man. Wisdom. Proverbs. Yet no man remembered him. So there you go. We Adams, and that could very well be like, an old man saved a city, yet nobody remembered him. He saved a city by his wisdom, yet nobody did it. And then Isaiah 45:12 created man upon it. Isaiah 13:12, even a man. But the word Adam is huge. A lot of studying has to go into it. Man or mankind. Man in our image, Adam, but, you know, man of the dust, a new man. There was no man created here. We'll go into that more some other time. I want to see how I got here to Wea Dam. I've pulled up that verse, Isaiah 45, verse 12. It reads in the Berean Standard Bible, "It is I who made the earth and created man upon it. It was my hands that stretched out the heavens, and I ordained all their host." All right. So I think I'm going to let that go right there and be a show, and maybe come back and do some more Bible reading tonight. Depends on how it goes during the comment section or what the Lord leads. But now I'll see how long it takes to upload this video, get it ready. I want to get me something to eat, and maybe set the time for around 7 o'clock, Lord willing. I'll see you there. In the meantime, please remember it's a flat earth nation. Mudflood was Armageddon. My goal is to have your best interest at heart, telling you the truth that if you're being called by God, you have to respond. You have to be able to confess with your mouth what you believe in your heart. Don't be lukewarm. Flat Earth Nation, Mudflood's Armageddon. You know I'm never going to tell you anything else. Why would I? Trying to prove I have your best interest at heart. Amen. Hallelujah. Aho. Aloha. Adios. Arrivederci.